For years, homework has just been a non-negotiable part of school, right? But let's be real. In your hands-on, career-focused classroom, does the traditional model actually work? Today, we're going to re-examine homework, not based on opinion, but on some really solid research, to see if we can find a better way forward for our CTE students.
It's the question every single one of us has asked ourselves. You see your students putting in the hours, you're putting in the hours creating and grading the stuff, but is it actually translating into real learning and skill building, or is it just busy work?
To get to the bottom of that, let's start with just one number. It's a powerful one. After digging through over 800 studies on what actually works in education, researcher John Hattie landed on this: 0.29. That number? That represents the average effect of homework on how well students do.
So, what does a 0.29 really mean? Well, Hattie's research basically set a benchmark. For any teaching strategy to have a real, noticeable impact, it needs an effect size of 0.40 or higher. Think of 0.40 as the goal line. Our 0.29 for typical homework? Yeah, it falls short. It's a pretty clear sign that the way we usually do homework just isn't making the difference we think it is.
So why the low number? Look, this isn't about blaming teachers at all. It's about diagnosing the assignments themselves. Let's peel back the layers and see what the research says is causing this huge disconnect between what we want homework to do and what it actually does.
And this right here, this visual, it just nails the core problem. On one side, you've got us, the teachers. Our intentions are great. We want reinforcement, deeper understanding, all that good stuff. But on the other side, for our students, it often just feels like stress, anxiety, and one more thing to pile on. The goals just are not lining up.
So where's this disconnect coming from? Well, it usually comes down to a few classic pitfalls. Are we giving them assignments that are all about memorizing facts instead of the critical, hands-on thinking they're going to need on the job? Are we using a one-size-fits-all model that just doesn't work for different skill levels? And we have to talk about equity. That digital divide is real. Not every student has the same tools at home, and that's a huge hurdle. Now, you might look at a super complex chart like this one and think, okay, the answer must be about whether it's online or on paper. But what this analysis actually shows is that the results are all over the map. Sometimes online homework worked better, sometimes it didn't. And that brings us to a really crucial point, kind of an aha moment. It's not about the format. It's about the quality and the purpose of the assignment itself. So this is where we get to the solution. Instead of arguing about if we should give homework, we need to completely reframe the conversation around why. The research points to 3 really clear, really effective purposes for homework, especially when we're talking about our secondary students.
Okay, first up is practice. This is probably the one we're all most familiar with. It's all about building fluency. But here's the absolute golden rule. Students have to already get the concept. They need to be able to do it on their own. You're not teaching something new here. You're helping them get the reps in so that skill becomes second nature. Think about it in a CTE context. It makes perfect sense. A cosmetology student learns a new, tricky braiding technique in your class. For homework, they take a mannequin head home and practice it over and over until their hands just know the moves without thinking. That is purposeful practice.
Next up is preparation. This is basically a flipped classroom approach. You front-load some of the basic information. Maybe they read a technical manual or watch a safety video so that your precious in-class time can be all about the hands-on application. They walk in the door ready to do something, not just ready to listen.
And finally, we have extension. Honestly, this might be the most powerful one of all. This is where the real, higher-order thinking kicks in. You're asking students to take what they've learned and apply it to a new, messy, real-world problem. It's really no surprise that research shows this type of homework is linked to the biggest gains in achievement because it's the closest thing to what they'll actually be doing in their careers.
Here's a perfect example. An auto tech student gets a specific engine fault code. For homework, their job is to use a diagnostic app or an online manual to research that code, figure out what could be causing it, and come up with a repair plan. So the next day in the shop, they're not just following your checklist, they are executing a strategy that they developed. How cool is that?
Okay, so knowing the purpose is one thing, but how do we actually design assignments that hit these marks? Let's move from the what to the how and open up the toolkit.
Just look at the difference here. Complete a worksheet is all about compliance. But draft a safety checklist? That's about application and taking on real responsibility. Read the chapter is totally passive. But find and critique a video? That's active. It's engaging, and it forces them to think critically. We're talking about a shift from busy work to real work.
To help you make this shift, Here's a super simple checklist. 4 questions to ask yourself before you assign anything. Number 1, what is my purpose? Am I aiming for practice, preparation, or extension? Getting clear on this makes everything else easier. 2, and this one is huge. Can my students actually do this independently? Because if they need you to help them, it's not effective homework. 3, can I build in some choice? A little flexibility can go a long way for student buy-in. And finally, 4, is this really the best use of a student's time at home? Or would it be better to do this in the classroom with all the right tools and support?
All right, there is one last piece to this puzzle. You can design the most amazing assignment ever, but without this final element, its impact can totally fizzle out. And that critical element is feedback.
John Hattie's research couldn't be more clear about this. He literally says, homework without feedback can become a meaningless exercise, as students may not know how to correct their errors. I mean, just think about that. If a student is at home practicing, but they're practicing it the wrong way, that homework isn't just useless, it's actually making things worse by reinforcing bad habits. The feedback is what turns a simple task into a real learning tool.
So here's the bottom line. We need to see homework not as something to just slap a grade on, but as a conversation. It's a formative assessment. It's a low-stakes chance for you to see what your students get and where they're getting stuck, so you can adjust what you do in class the next day. It's a diagnostic tool, pure and simple.
And that brings us to the final question, and this one is really for you. Thinking about your classroom, your students, and the skills they absolutely need for their future careers, what's one small change, just one tiny thing, you can make to your very next assignment to make it more purposeful, more engaging, and a much more effective tool for learning?